Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Gamer. This movie tells the story of an expert gamer who creates an avatar of a human being that must cheat death in the world of gaming. However, he strives to fight the deadliest battles to survive and find his freedom. Will he get out of that deadly game? Let's find out in Gamer. Gamer started in 2034 when big cities look more modern and technology has developed rapidly. Billboards all over the city were filled with advertisements about Slayers, a very popular game in which the characters in the game were real people. A character named Kable, a tough guy with immense combat abilities, is a crowd favorite. He has won 26 matches, of which he only needs to win the remaining 4 battles, before finally gaining his freedom. The scene then switches to a massive battle arena in a factory where the game occurs. Each character in the game is controlled by players elsewhere, and they will earn points for killing or rescuing teammates. Several minor characters are shown to perform simple tasks. The minor characters seemed oblivious to the great battle unfolding around them. Kable is controlled by a global top player named Simon, a 17-year-old teenage boy. Simon then controls Kable to surround the factory and kill all his targets. But then, a bomb is thrown near Kable, sending him flying outside. Kable then ran towards his destination to win the match. After that, the surviving characters, including Kable, were taken to a place when the game was over. Some of the still alive characters congratulate Kable for winning, and it means that he only needs to win 3 more battles to get his freedom. However, some seem pessimistic because no character has ever managed to win all matches. No one has even survived the past 10 matches, apart from Kable. Meanwhile, in another place, a female talk show host named Gina appears to be interviewing a man named Castle, who is the creator of the game Slayers, where they talk about the achievements that Castle has achieved. Castle, who is a computer programmer, originally created a game called Society, a virtual community life simulation game, which is more or less similar to the game The Sims or Metaverse. Instead of controlling artificial characters, the game's players control real people and can do whatever the players want. Castle said, "People can pay to control others, and people receive payments to be controlled by others." The Society quickly became a sensation and was immensely popular and highly profitable, making Castle the richest man on planet Earth. After that, Castle made the game Slayers, a game that was quite controversial initially but was supported by the government. Unlike the characters in the paid game Society, the characters in the Slayers game are promised freedom after winning 30 battles because they are convicts on death row. They fight using real weapons in specially crafted arenas. Everyone who becomes a character in the game Society and Slayers is implanted with self-replicating nanites that allow them to be controlled by others. However, they can only be controlled within the game. If the game is over, then they can get full control of their bodies back. An activist organization called Humans hacked into a talk show interview with Castle. A man nicknamed the Humans Brother claims that Castle's technology will one day be used to control people against their will and become an enslaved person by Castle. Feeling furious, Castle then ordered his men to find where the hacker's signal came from. Meanwhile in prison, a prisoner beats a guard to death then tries to escape. However, in the end he failed. On the other hand, Kable is seen sitting alone, remembering fond memories with his wife and daughter. A prisoner named Freak came up to Kable and sat next to him. Freak said he could hardly believe that Kable only needed to win 3 more battles before finally gaining freedom. Freak then asks how he got imprisoned and sentenced to death. A flashback flashed through Kable's mind, showing an unconscious and bloodied man in a room. As Kable returned to his cell, someone cracked open his cell door and handed him a photo of his wife and daughter. A female voice said that family was the most important thing to Kable. After that, he was asked to sign something and take a blood sample. Elsewhere, Kable's wife, Angie, is seen working as a character in the game Society, where she is being controlled by an obese man named George. In the middle of the game, the Humans brothers hack into the Society servers and continue to hurl hate speech at the creators of the Society and Slayer. Castle watching the news about how the hack forced the developer Society to temporarily shut down the game, which resulted in billions of dollars in losses. However, Castle doesn't seem to care about that because that amount is just pennies to him. Sometime later, the Slayers game characters seem to be heading to the next battle arena. Because they are forbidden to talk to each other, a female character appears to be beaten by guards for breaking the rules. Kable and the others finally arrived at the ruins of the city that were the arena for this round's battle. Kable and the others were armed and wearing bulletproof vests according to the players' abilities controlling them. When the game starts, there is massive fighting and explosions everywhere. On Simon's orders, Kable then saves a female character and manages to get points, although in the end the female character is killed as well. Not long after, a female prisoner saves Kable from snipers, but the woman also ended up being sadistically killed. Simon takes control of Kable, fights brutally, eliminating his opponents. Kable finally won the fight, where everyone worldwide cheered for his victory. Meanwhile, on his way home, one of the male prisoners seemed so frustrated and depressed because he was always being controlled by someone else. Elsewhere, Simon is relaxing in his room with advanced technology in hand, buying ammunition and armor for Kable with the points he earns. Not long after, his server was hacked by humans, which saw Kable shoot dead a man in his room. After that, a male voice was heard asking if Simon wanted to speak directly to Kable, as they would show them how. Meanwhile, Castle, who feels threatened by Kable's winning streak, then introduces a new inmate nicknamed Hackman, specifically to kill Kable. Unknown to anyone else, Hackman will not be controlled by a player and thus not be handicapped by the ping, which causes a small but dangerous delay between the player's command and the Slayer's action. Inside the prison, a prisoner appears to be trying to remove the nanocells implanted in his brain, but in the end the man is killed. Freak then tells Kable that Hackman is a new prisoner who deliberately kills several people only to be thrown into prison. While Kable is practicing shooting with Simon's upgraded ammo, Hackman comes to him with bloodied hands and says he will kill Kable and his family. When the next battle begins, Simon talks to Kable and says that he has installed a mod that allows them to communicate. Kable then encounters Freak, who is assigned to sweep the ground and is unaware of the firefights around him. When Kable tries to save him, Freak is shot and killed. When Simon says that he doesn't care about the others, Kable says they are all real people. Simon then directs Kable to a parking building close to the border between the game's battle arena and the outside world. An explosion occurs as Kable approaches the border. Not long after, Hackman appeared and immediately attacked him. When Hackman is about to shoot Kable dead, suddenly his gun doesn't work because the game is over. When Hackman is taken away by the guards, Kable then tells Simon that he must give up control of himself if Simon wins the fight. Because of Hackman's attack on Kable, Simon finally finished 5th in this game. The next day, Angie goes to the government office and tries to regain custody of her daughter, Delia. However, with her husband's status as a death row prisoner and Angie working in the society, government officials underestimate her ability to raise and care for Delia economically because of her meager income. The officer then informed that Delia had been adopted by a wealthy family. When Simon is alone in his room and buying armor for Kable, the server is again hacked by the Humans brothers, who ask him to comply with Kable's request to give up Simon's control over Kable's body so they can win the game. However, Simon thinks this is a fraudulent act and is very risky and fatal if caught. However, Humans brother continued to convince Simon until he finally agreed. In prison, Kable is again visited by a mysterious woman who says that Simon will give up control of his body. He must escape from the game to survive and save his family because Castle doesn't want to let Kable win. While preparing for the final battle, Kable finds a bottle of vodka that he drinks to get drunk during the battle so that Simon will not be caught if he has given up control of Kable's body. Kable stumbled a few times, but Simon then encouraged him to stay alive. Kable then headed to the parking lot. After spitting vodka and urinating, Kable got into the car and prepared to head for the border to escape. Despite being blocked by Hackman and the guards, Kable finally managed to cross the border and escape from the game arena, until finally a missile was fired at him, and the game suddenly shut down. Everyone thought that Kable was dead. The escape is successful, and news outlets report that Kable has been fragged, which puts Simon in a difficult position. He is labeled a cheater, locked out of his bank account, and investigated by the FBI for helping Kable escape. Kable then rushed to Angie's apartment, but he is intercepted and meets Trace, a woman who is a member of Humans who meets him in prison. Kable is then taken to Humans' hideout, informing them that they have successfully decoded the specific nanocells in Kable's blood sample, allowing direct interaction between Kable and Simon. Knowing that Humans plans to take down Castle, Kable refuses to help in their fight against Castle, but the brothers say they know Angie's current location in the society. Meanwhile at the society, Gina secretly follows Angie there, knowing that Kable is coming to save her. Gina finds out that Angie went to a hotel with a man named Rick. Just as Rick is about to harass Angie, Kable arrives and kills him. Kable then asked George to let go of Angie's body, but George refused. Kable finally took Angie, but Hackman intercepted them, who shot Kable and took Angie away in an elevator. It didn't take long for Kable to get back up and go after Hackman. Kable manages to intercept Hackman as he exits the elevator and then attacks and shoots him in the leg. But at the same time, Castle's men came and attacked Kable. With George's direction, they passed a bar filled with society characters. Another shootout occurred and left many of the society's characters dead. Kable finally manages to get Angie out of the bar and encounters Gina, who helps them escape. Elsewhere, Simon is still being interrogated by the FBI, who forces him to tell him how Simon can give up control of Kable's body, but Simon refused to speak. Meanwhile, Gina takes Kable and Angie to Humans headquarters, where the Humans members try to deactivate the nanocells in Angie and Kable's brains so they can no longer be controlled. But apparently it was quite difficult, so they could only temporarily disable it. The Humans brothers later told Kable that Castle had tested the original nanites on 2 men, namely Kable and his best friend, Scotch. Shortly after Scotch died, Kable was imprisoned and the project was shut down. The same technology was later seen again when Castle created the society. Therefore, Humans wanted to know what really happened to Kable and Scotch during the project. As it turned out, Castle succeeded in creating self-replicating nanites that replaced brain tissue and allowed humans to control the actions of other humans and see through their eyes, which is where Castle first tested his invention on Kable to kill Scotch. Meanwhile, elsewhere, George is visited by Castle's men who want to find out where Angie is. When Angie finally came to her senses, she told everyone that she was trying to defend their daughter Delia but failed, and finally Delia was adopted by a rich family. After learning that Castle is a rich dad who adopted Delia, Kable plans to infiltrate his house to get his daughter back. Gina chases Kable outside, trying to stop him as it is very dangerous, but Kable didn't care. Meanwhile, Gina watches Castle's men enter Humans' base. On the other hand, Simon was finally released after being interrogated by the FBI. When he returns home and checks his computer, Simon realizes that this is what everyone thinks of him, as a swindler, and writes all kinds of blasphemous sentences directed at him. Kable infiltrates the Castle house and sees his daughter but cannot reach the girl. Kable eventually encounters Castle, who controls some of the people he orders to attack him, but he can take them all down. Castle then reveals that his men have tracked down Humans' base and killed them all. Castle also reveals that 98% of his own brain has been replaced with nanites, which allow him to control other people instead of being controlled. He plans to release nanites into the air that will infect the entire United States within 6 months, giving Castle complete control over their bodies. Castle then makes Hackman attack Kable, but Kable can easily kill him. Kable then takes a knife and tries to attack Castle, but freezes in place, and Castle also explains that his men have reactivated Kable and Angie's nanites previously disabled by Humans. Unbeknownst to Castle, Gina and Trace manage to escape the Humans members' massacre and infiltrate Castle's company, revealing a confrontation to the world and exposing his plans, which makes people worldwide feel disgusted with Castle. It also unblocks Simon's account and restores his control over Kable's body. Castle tries to manipulate Kable into killing his own daughter, but he tries his best to restrain her, and with Simon's control, allows Kable to attack Castle. Castle and Simon then fight for control of Kable. Kable then tells Castle to imagine Kable's knife stabbing him. Castle unconsciously does so, allowing Kable to kill him and relinquish his control over everyone. With Castle dead, the world population cheers for the demise of their potential slaver and dictator. Kable convinces Castle's technicians to deactivate the nanites, freeing all the characters in society and slayers. The film closes with Kable, Angie, and their daughter taking a trip down a country road, ending with the words "Game over."